Так. Мгм. Ой, стук-стук, стук-постук. Мгм. Скажите, командуйте, когда можно начинать. Можно. Друзья, мы возобновляем нашу трансляцию, собственно, работу секции в формате коллоквиума «Похвала, лохмотьям, моды, эстетика, изъяна». И у нас осталось два предзаписанных заранее коллегами доклада, да, в силу разницы во времени. И, собственно, я сейчас запущу доклад нашей канадской коллеги Элисон Дэвид, профессора Ryerson University Торонто, которая, да, вот продолжает свое исследование таких очень интересных динамических отношений как бы криминальной сферы и разного рода модных, одежных артефактов. И, собственно, доклад ее называется «Damaged Criminal Acts and the Forensic Revelations of Everyday Dress». Хочу сразу сказать, что доклады предзаписаны на языке оригинала, перевод не предполагается. К сожалению, вопросы, если они будут, я смогу исключительно передать коллегам и потом вернуться с ответами.
Hello, and thank you for having me here.
Да, я сейчас покажу, где именно. Нужно вот это демонстрировать. Вот. Верхнее самое. Это видео. Спасибо. Да?
Hello, and thank you for having me here at this. It's an incredible publication. I'm always very impressed with the range and scope of the themes you pick, and I'm very excited to share some of my ongoing research toward the Fabric of Crime project with you in the context of the theme of looking at the flaw and rags today. So, as I mentioned, this is work in progress. It will result in a book at least, and also an exhibition called Exhibit A at the Badashi Museum, which I have now going on with the project at our website. And please feel free to contact me if you have questions. But I've shared all this information with you here. The focus I'm going to have today on how clothing is damaged in the context of crime, how it's collected, how it's examined historically. About everyday items, less so about high fashion, but there is a stark contrast and some very interesting material, so to speak, that can be learned through looking at clothing through the lens of crime. So I'll share some of my cases and case studies with you today. I start out with the typical fashion collection and exhibition. I mean, there's nothing necessarily typical about the Toronto, about the Costume Institute in New York, but and their collection, but it is typical of the ways in which high fashion is presented with, in terms of a seamless, beautiful, glittering narrative, which you can see literally again in this lexicon of fashion exhibition. For example, dress is flawless. There are no stains. There are no tears. These are not rags. It may be the rag trade, but these are not by any means rags. A very different picture emerges when studying the forensics of dress. And I've done this through archives, through forensic experts, through images, through objects, and I'll talk a little bit about that process and what I've discovered, although this is by no means a comprehensive account, and there is a lot more left to be said about this. So, but just as by contrast, I found some sort of everyday men wearing suits in the same period. And then on the right, this is a photograph by the forensic photographer, Rodolphe Archibald Rice. He documented a case in 1907 where an average civilian had performed an act that was by no means average and had found a smoking bomb on a train car in Switzerland and had taken it off the train to save the passengers. He took it off with his own hands, and this is his suit, the remains of the suit once the bomb had actually exploded in his hand, wounding him severely. But you can see the suit itself is very much literally in tatters. It's shredded by the shrapnel of the bomb was a glass bottle that exploded. The explosives are left in terms of residues on the suit. It's only preserved not in a museum, but through this detailed, crystal clear forensic photograph. But it speaks volumes, I think, about the importance of everyday dress as evidence, both historically and I think in terms of what transpired in a particular time and space, historically in Switzerland, in this case, 1907, on a train, and can tell us stories about, if we pursue them, about what was the role of anarchy at this time and place, who was this person, who was the investigator. So this is just one example of very much how everyday a dress appears in the archive. This suit would not be preserved otherwise if it were not for this photograph. I think Ellen Sampson's work speaks to us about the value of clothing that is worn and that it is imperfect, and yet how it's been situated, how they have been situated at the peripheries of fashion research, perhaps because used in imperfect garments, to quote Ellen Sampson, are often on the peripheries of fashion itself. The fashion system, both a cycle of commerce and of representation, is concerned with newness, with reinvention and transformation through the acquisition of goods, whereas, you know, many of the objects I'm studying have found an afterlife only because they are involved with acts that involve violence or trauma. So quite a different reason. They are not about newness necessarily. And in fact, one item that I've been studying certainly fits this definition of something already old, but reused in a new context, but not by any means a new narrative in some ways. These are stocking masks that were worn to commit a burglary, were used by men, two brothers, the Stratton brothers, in 1905, involved in a burglary that went wrong and became a murder. But they basically then realized when a murder was committed that they needed to conceal their identities. And so they took what was available, what was to hand, and they actually hacked these masks. As you can see, they're very crude knitted masks from 1905. Tied with twine around their heads. They wanted to conceal their identities. They hacked them with, very rough scissors, scissor marks still visible from stockings, from old stockings that were probably once black, but had turned kind of a gray color. But really, crude eye holes, jagged edges. But of course, this crudeness and the fact that these were essentially
истории, да, исследование своего собственного пиджака. И опять же, да, это вот такая зарисовка, она предзаписана, поэтому я сразу же передаю слово Сьюзан.
The wool slightly shiny. My black jacket is 25 years old, cherished. The wool slightly shiny in places from wear and tear. When a button falls off, I stitch it back, fix the threads clawed loose by the cat. My black jacket is 25 years old. My body has changed, blossomed, softened, produced 2 children, lost a mother. The jacket fits in a different way now, touches, holds, bears witness to significant events. Memories are ingrained in the fabric, never wash out. Is 25 years old, cherished. The wool slightly shiny in places from wear and tear. When a button falls off, I stitch it back, fix the threads clawed loose by the cat. My black jacket is 25 years old. My body has changed, blossomed, softened, produced 2 children, lost a mother. The jacket fits in a different way now, touches, holds, bears witness to significant events. Memories are ingrained in the fabric, never wash out. My black jacket is 25 years old. Thinking of Jane Bennett's New Materialism series, my jacket has agency, power. Together, we are an assemblage of human and non-human elements with the ability to make something happen. My black jacket is 25 years old. Look closely. It's worn by me, worn fabric, but not worn out. Look closely at my hands, the same hands as before, yet different. Rough skin, wrinkles, aging. My black jacket is 25 years old. I could buy a new jacket or copy the pattern. I don't.
I would like to share with you 3 personal memories that, embedded in the jacket, I carry with me every time I choose to wear it. Embedded memory number 1. My dad bought me the jacket many years ago for my birthday. We went together to buy it. He's 89 now and he still loves shopping for clothes. Embedded memory number 2. Cedra and I went to visit his cousin Francesca, a fashion designer with a small shop in Como. I was wearing my jacket. The next time we saw her, she was wearing a similar jacket in a different fabric. She had replicated the design because she liked it so much. Francesca died of breast cancer 3 years ago, but the thought of her copying my jacket always makes me smile. Embedded memory number 3. I was wearing the lucky jacket in 2021 when I passed my PhD viva. I could go on, of course. 25 years is a long time. The jacket is, in a way, an archive of my life. It holds traces of happy, sad, funny, poignant and ordinary everyday memories and emotions within its very worn fabric. My black jacket is 25 years old, worn, repaired, cherished. Memories are embedded in its cloth, and as you might have gathered, I love it. I loved it straight away. The shawl collar, an asymmetric cut of the front, the fitted waist flaring slightly over the hips. Perfect. This is an emotional reaction rather than an academic analysis, but in my talk today I will explore this much loved and in a certain sense irreplaceable garment as an archive of memories and celebrate its aging imperfection as an ecological and sustainable choice. In 2018, the museum at FIT in New York held an exhibition entitled Fashion Unraveled, which examined the concepts of imperfection and incompletion in fashion and aimed to highlight the aberrant beauty in flawed objects, noting that unless such imperfections are intentional, as they are in the case of deconstructed fashion, garments that are altered, unfinished, or that show signs of wear are often overlooked in museum collections. Curator Colleen Hill noted that traces of wear, shortened hemlines and careful mends can be found even on haute couture designs, and that these alterations signify the lasting economic and emotional value of clothing, and in some cases challenge the concept of fashion as a strictly ephemeral, disposable commodity. Interestingly, Hill selected garments that were not only visually compelling, but that also told intriguing stories about their makers and or wearers. While planning the exhibition, the museum at FIT launched a crowdsourced project entitled Wearing Memories, which invited the public to share stories and photos of garments that held special meaning. Some of these were then displayed in the exhibition, while others were shown online. Since 2010, Emily Spivak, author of Worn Stories and the internet website Sentimental Value, has also explored the role of memory in the garments we hold dear, believing clothes to be a powerful storytelling device. In the introduction to her book, she writes, "The clothes that protect us, that make us laugh, that serve as a uniform, that help us assert our identity or aspirations, that we wear to remember someone. In all of these are encoded the stories of our lives. We all have a memoir in miniature, living in a garment we've worn." There is a strong link between our identity and what we wear. In their article, Materializing Memories, Exploring the Stories of People with Dementia Through Dress, Christina Buse and Julia Twigg analysed the findings from their study. Under the themes of kept clothes, discarded clothes and absent clothes, Buse and Twigg researched the potential of material objects, in this case clothing, as memory triggers to evoke narratives and help to maintain a sense of identity for people with dementia, by stimulating memories through their visual, tactile and sensory properties. Quoting different literature on the subject, they note that biographies and narratives are inseparably intertwined with stories of things, and that clothes are particularly potent memory objects, because they're not just owned, but they are worn by the person and become imbued with their essence. Why do we have some clothes that we love more than others, that we wear until they're worn out, that we mend and darn and repair and can't bear to get rid of or substitute for another, that are aesthetically pleasing even as they age? Can we know when we buy something that this will be the case, or does this become apparent later? Wouldn't it be great to identify the factor which makes a garment eternally loved rather than a transitory passion? This would certainly lead to a more sustainable approach to the clothes we buy. In trying to identify this factor, I looked at comments by 3 designers who were fashionable in the 1930s and 40s, long before the meteoric rise of fast fashion, in a period when most people owned less clothes and when the Great Depression followed by the Second World War led to the make, do and mend ethos. In the 1930s, French Vogue that his aim was to make clothes that were a friend to women, a friend you can see again and again and not get sick of. In order to achieve this, he thought the garment should be intensely wearable, but have great gaiety and mystery too. French couturier Madame Grès, on the other hand, believed that for a dress to survive from one era to the next, it must be marked with an extreme purity, which Ukrainian designer Valentina seconded by declaring that simplicity survives the changes of fashion. Fit the century, forget the year. Mystery, purity and simplicity. Does it fit the century, not the year? I think it does, and it actually fits 2 centuries as it was bought before the year 2000. But I'm biased, and I will leave it for you to decide. It certainly has other criteria I believe to be important. The fabric is good quality. It's not gone out of fashion despite the ever-changing fashions. It goes with nearly everything, and I think it suits me. As I have grown older, it has grown older. As I have changed, the jacket has changed. wrinkled, a little battered. It is irreplaceable because, as Donatella Barbieri writes in Encounters in the Archive, it has developed individual qualities through personal interactions with its wearer. It has adapted to accommodate the shape of my body, been imprinted with memories. Emblematic of a life, it has developed agency. Jane West's dress, in the soon-to-be published Memories of Dress, Recollections of Material Identities. The title implies that the clothes whisper their secrets to those who listen. They have taken on anthropomorphic characteristics. In Vibrant Matter, A Political Ecology of Things, Jane Bennett introduces the idea of thing power and aims to theorize a materiality that is as much a force as entity, as much energy as matter, as much intensity as extension. While she highlights the agency of things, Bennett acknowledges the interdependency of human and non-human elements. She quotes Spinoza as saying, "As the body is more capable of being affected in many ways and of affecting external bodies, so is the mind more capable of thinking." She puts forward the idea that the mind has a greater capacity for thought, and bodies enhance their power in or as a heterogeneous assemblage. Continuing by defining the word assemblage used by Deleuze and Guattari, assemblages are not governed by any central head. No one materiality or type of material has sufficient competence to determine consistently the trajectory or impact of the group. The effects generated by an assemblage are rather emergent properties, emergent in their ability to make something happen. It is a grandiose thought that potentially, when I wear my black jacket, this assemblage of human and non-human elements has... Annika Smelik writes about new materialism in the field of visual culture and fashion studies, noting that the theories provide a dynamic notion of life in which human bodies, fibres, fabrics, garments and technologies are inextricably entangled, embedded in a network of human and non-human actors, where matter is not merely raw and inert stuff on which humans act, but is itself alive and kicking. With the decentering of the human subject, fashion is thus expanded beyond the frame of the human body and human identity to the non-human world of technology and ecology. Quoting St. Pierre, Matsey and Jackson, Smelik notes that if we accept the new materialism idea that human and non-human